In this week's episode, we talk about how wealth and success is built from the inside out. We talk about the importance of inner child healing, including how to start to heal your wounds, beliefs, and limitations now. And we look at different ways and modalities you can use to start to change your money mindset.
Welcome to Man Quest Define Meaning, where we help men navigate modern life, find their true purpose, and redefine manhood. I'm your host, James, and each week, inspiring guests share their journeys of overcoming fear, embracing vulnerability, and finding success. From experts to everyday heroes, get practical advice and powerful insights. Struggling with career, relationships, or personal growth? We've got you covered. Join us on Man Quest Define Meaning. Now, let's dive in.
Wealth and success are created from the inside out. Hello, Taylor. Can you explain more?
Hi, James. Yes, I've found in my lifetime so many instances of people close to me, of people I've worked with, of even in my own experience, so many instances of people giving away their power to money and chasing after money and putting it on this pedestal, feeling like it's this unattainable thing or this goal to run after. And I found that the more that people do that, the more the money is pushed away. And this is how most of the world lives. This is how most people approach wealth, approach money, approach success. And over a decade for myself, but 7 years in business, particularly, I found that wealth is truly created from your relationship with yourself and your relationship with what you bring to the table and the value you carry. And that's where all of the money and success we crave is created from.
Yeah, it's so often in relationships, I'd always put the other person on a pedestal and completely forgot about myself. And I always wondered why my relationships break down. Now, if you do the same with money, I think I have done the same for probably 30 plus to 30, 40 years. And this is one of the reasons I joined your community, was to be able to change that idea of my relationship with myself, but also my relationship with money. And this obviously then stems out to relationships with people, relationships with everything, I think.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because about 15 years ago, I met my now husband, and our relationship has always been fantastic. And I remember about a decade ago when I really started working with my money mindset and working on building more wealth and pulling myself out of debt and creating success and starting a business. I actually transposed a lot of what I was doing right in my relationship onto my relationship with money. And I started looking at and connecting the dots of what makes my relationship work so well. What mindset was I in when I met my now husband? What was my relationship with myself? And I realized that it came down to I was not ready to meet someone that I could be with long term until I fell deeply in love with myself, until I was prioritizing my happiness, until I knew my worth. I knew what I brought to the table in a relationship, and I worked on myself to increase that worth. And then I was able to attract someone who had also done something similar with themselves, and we were able to come together and not be putting each other on pedestals or chasing each other and not communicating properly. And the relationship has just worked almost seamlessly for so long now. And when I was looking at my money mindset, wow, I'm really needy with money. I'm always stressing about money. I'm always wondering, is it going to be coming in, and is it going to be enough, and is it going to leave? And I got to myself at one point, if I had approached dating my husband like this, we wouldn't be married. Like if I had been constantly stressing, is he going to call? Is he going to come over? Is he going to leave me? Is he going to stay? Is he going to does he like me? Is the, questioning my self-worth and coming from a place of, I know I'm amazing. I know what I bring to the table. And I want to share that with someone. And it's very similar. We can transpose a lot of that and see a lot of parallels with our relationship with money as well.
Yeah, well, if I was to be completely honest now, because I suppose I'm in your group, you're almost my teacher, what I'm noticing myself in this exact moment is I'm putting you in a pedestal. And so I'm having to realize that I'm doing that, pull myself back to actually bring myself back into myself, back into my heart space, so that I can then be able to realize that I'm worthy, I'm good enough. I bring so much to the table. I'm able to get all this out to the people, like podcasts and stuff. And it's a perfect thing with money, with relationships. And it's so important to realize in the moment as well. But it's quite an art to realize when you put people or things on pedestals.
Absolutely. And first of all, that's amazing that you realize that in this moment and that you're able to claim that, because that's something that so many people do, not just with me, but I've experienced it so often. People come into my communities, they found me on YouTube, they see they're watching me for a while, and it's easy to then put me on a pedestal. I think I have everything figured out and they don't know anything about what we're talking about. And I've seen it happen even with myself when I've hired mentors who are much farther ahead of me in business or career. And there's that tendency of us to put people on a pedestal, to put things on a pedestal, and reclaiming our inner power and reclaiming our worth and realizing, no, like I also bring something to the table here. It changes everything. And it changes the dynamic you can have in relationships, in conversations, in business partnerships. I found for me, going into mentorship spaces and realizing that the questions that I ask are so pointed and poignant, and sometimes it pulls brilliance out of my mentors. And so we're both lifting each other up in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And that I have my own strengths and they have their own strengths. And some areas I've excelled more, in some areas they've excelled more. I've even opened opportunities and doors for some of my mentors in other industries, and they've opened other doors for me. And it's interesting, but something that you said there is almost that, business context of, I can bring something to the table. Something else to keep in mind is money always flows through people. Always. Like, in order for money to flow to you, it has to come from someone, whether they directly decide to pay you or hire you, or someone signs some government benefits that they prove it and it ends up in your account. Someone has to sign your paycheck or issue the payroll. It's like the money always comes from someone, whether directly or indirectly, but money flows through other people. And so not only is money created from the inside out, because we have to look at our relationship with money and take our power back around it, but also the way we relate to other people, it impacts the flow of money. Because if I, for example, as a business owner, if I were looking to hire somebody and they came to me and I was interviewing them for a team position, and they were super nervous and it seemed really needy and uncertain of themselves and were kind of downplaying their abilities, they probably wouldn't get the job. But if someone came in and they were very confident and they were very, able to articulate what they bring to the table and help me see how their strengths line up with my needs, then they'd probably be an easy hire. They'd be much more likely to get the job. And so there's a lot of areas where our relationship with ourselves impacts the money that we see coming into our bank accounts.
Yeah. Can you tell us your story? How did you get into this and where did it all begin?
Well, it goes back early childhood, but I grew up with my parents constantly being stressed about money. It was always the number one stressor in our household. And I saw my parents go through multiple bankruptcies growing up. And I saw this and I kind of just thought this is just how the world works for people like this, for middle class family. Like, this is just, if you have some bad luck, you're just screwed and you just have to try hard. But I was told constantly growing up at the same time, if you work really hard, you'll make money, you'll be fine, and you can have the success you desire. So study hard, get good grades, go to a good school, and then you'll be fine. And I did all that. I got top grades in all of my classes, all the way up through university level. Went to an Ivy League graduate school, left because it was too easy even. And I went out into the workforce and I could barely make ends meet. I had to move back in with my family, even though I got jobs. And I continued to climb the ladder at the job. I was told, you're the best employee that we have. I'd get promotions, but the raises were minuscule. And it wasn't enough to live on, especially with paying back student loans that I had to take out to go to school. But I promised this is the path to the money. This is the path to being financially stable. And I think so many of us are told that story, whether it's through school or just through working hard. Is there's this mentality that's in our society of you have to work hard to make money. You got to work hard at your job. You got to work hard at your industry. You got to work hard at mastering your skills. I did all those things and I was still barely able to cover necessities and paying my bills. And I just remember feeling like I was drowning in debt. It would take me 40 years to pay it off. And I didn't understand. I was like, I did everything, quote unquote, right. And I'm still struggling the same way my parents are and were with money. And that was about the time where I started kind of working on my mindset. I started stumbling on Googling things and finding different people, different concepts around mindset around money. So I started kind of working on that, saw some small improvements. And then my father became terminally ill in his early 60s. And as I watched his health decline and saw him at the end of his life, he had worked his entire life and job he hated to support our family. And we were barely scraping by. And I had watched him put dreams on hold, opportunities he'd been given to pursue passions of his that he put on hold because he said, I can't, because we need the money. I can't leave my job to do that. We need the money. And so he not only given his power away, but given his life away to having to chase after the money to survive. And combining my experience with, I followed the prescribed path and didn't see the reward that's promised. And I feel like I'm drowning in debt. And then seeing my father still drowning in debt, still drowning in bankruptcies and the financial struggle, and not have gotten to live his life. And then seeing his life end, I was like, I don't believe this is all that there is. I can't accept that. And it was at that point that I started a business. It was not at all what I'm doing now. It was doing virtual assistant work for online entrepreneurs. It was doing different tasks and things like that. It wasn't at all mentoring at that point. But I started to dig into this work, and I started to build something else because I was like, I won't spend the rest of my life sitting at a desk doing a job I hate to possibly die having not lived all because of money. And it really was at one point just money was something I hated, I was stressed about, and I really shifted that relationship. I shifted the relationship with myself and empowered myself around money. And I also shifted my relationship with money and really fell in love with money from a very empowering place. And so that's what's led me here today. As my business developed, I started seeing what I was capable of, what gifts I could bring to the table. I started seeing the lessons I had learned. And as I started to make money, or I started to see the wins I had around money in my at the time, the day job, and how things were miraculously happening, like doubling my salary, all these things as I did the inner work. I was like, I think I got to start telling people about this because I don't want anyone else to live how my dad lived and to experience that.
It's a very powerful story. Can we go back to childhood? Because I remember as a child, I was told money doesn't grow on trees. And my parents, actually both sides of the family are farmers, the generations. And farmers have this mentality that they have to work hard to meet ends. And it's not a job, it's a lifestyle, as they say. But they graft and graft and graft. And one thing that I know and has come up so many times in podcasts is inner child healing, and going back and being able to heal the wound, not necessarily the wounds, but the patterns, the limiting beliefs that we get from our parents, such as things money doesn't grow on trees, or money is hard to earn, life's hard. And it's just when you are able to realize you have them patterns, it's so easy to start to change when you know how. How can we start to do more inner child healing?
So inner child healing has been huge for me and has created so many breakthroughs. And I found that anywhere that I feel like if I just take a moment and tune in with myself and ask myself, what am I most afraid of? Especially whether it's around money or anything else you want to heal around. What am I most afraid of? And looking at like the biggest fears, the scariest things. It might be I'm afraid of running out of money. I'm afraid of going bankrupt. I'm afraid of disappointing my family. I'm afraid of not being able to feed my children. Whatever the fear is, when you look at that, then you can often, not always, but trace that to some sort of childhood wounds or something you've picked up, limiting beliefs you picked up from watching your parents and the way they operated around money or whatever's at hand. And so I always say it's looking at the fear and then just when did I learn this? Where did this come from? Is this mine? I think that's also a powerful question. Is this even mine? Or is this someone else's belief that I've picked up? A lot of our beliefs are just societal beliefs or our parents' beliefs that we've just picked up and we check in with ourselves. But I don't actually believe that. It's just a program that I've installed. That was installed in me all those decades ago, and I'm just carrying it around and operating under it. And so we can identify is this mine or not. And if it is yours, then it's about starting to look at what do I need to heal this? What is that inner child? Was that part of me that picked up this belief all those years ago? What would they need to hear to be able to release this? What would they need to do in order to release this? And so there's this willingness to go inward and to look at those kind of shadowy parts of ourselves and those parts of us that are the most afraid and turn a light on it. And just like you said, it's the awareness that often shifts it. Sometimes just having that awareness is enough to shift it. Sometimes we need other healing modalities as well. But I think the biggest thing, the biggest concept for me that has helped facilitate so much of my healing, whether it's inner child healing or just general mindset work and belief work, has been reframing how I handle fear. And for me, it's been this reframe of just when I'm afraid of something, whether it's afraid of something big happening with money or afraid of a launch failing or afraid of anything, I look at it and I say, instead of running away from this fear, let me run toward it. And that doesn't mean let me just stab at the wound and deal with the pain and get over it. It's more, let me look at what it's trying to illuminate. What is the fear trying to tell me? Where is it trying to ask me to grow or heal? Typically when we're afraid of something, there's something to heal underneath it. And so when I reframe fear from being something that's like a warning sign saying, stay away, go a different way, don't come over here, don't do that, to there's something to be looked at here. There's something to be healed here. It's like I let the fear guide me to where I can be healed, to where I can be expanded, to where I can evolve. And so that reframe often, I think, is such a great guiding light in our healing journeys.
So that's almost like taking a step back and then, I suppose, asking yourself, where is this fear? And then going into that part of the body and then asking, what is it trying to tell me?
Yeah.
And then going from there. Because I know that a lot of people, I suppose a lot of men, see some of this as they call it, woo-woo or a bit out there. And so how would you go about reframing the whole idea of inner child healing and almost connecting with your fear?
I look at it like, again, what we were even talking about at the beginning of our conversation here, of how relationships are so parallel to money and the way we relate to money. And if you want to attract someone into your life, or you want to be with someone who is kind and caring and funny and smart and accomplished and all whatever qualities you desire, that usually just doesn't happen by accident. And if you want someone like that, you're like, you have to be worthy of that, in the sense that like you need to bring those things forward from yourself as well. And so doing that inner work, whether it's for a relationship or around money, because money is incredibly powerful, and it opens up a lot of influence and power for ourselves. It opens up choice for us. It opens up so much, and money can do so many amazing things. But you have to be able to hold the level of power that's required to hold the power that money gives you. And that's something you have to within. And so I often will tell people it's not just a sensitive, feely thing to do the inner work, though there's nothing like that. But it's also, when you do this inner work, when you're willing to look at your fears, that takes so much power. And it's such a strength, and it cultivates so much more power within yourself. And so it's not this, you could call it woo-woo. I think there's far more woo-woo things than just working on yourself, right? I think it's more self-development. And when you work on yourself, it's like you're strengthening. You're strengthening everything you bring to the table. You're cultivating more strength within yourself to look at the fears. How can you expect to walk through the more challenging parts of a relationship if you can't even look at the challenging parts of yourself? How can you expect to handle the challenges that come with more money, which there are always more challenges with more money? How can you walk through that if you can't look at the challenges within yourself?
I've been on this journey, I reckon, probably 9-10 years. But I tell you something, went for a breakup, which then left me at my lowest. And I made a commitment in that moment that I'd never be at the same point. And so since then, I've been, and I wouldn't call it, actually, I would call it obsessed. So I get obsessed with doing personal and spiritual development. But one thing I've noticed is that as you progress down this path, the amount of things it brings in, the amount of joy, the amount of happiness, amount of passion, the amount of new opportunities. And I feel like after every relationship, I usually have a year or two between, I've had 5 now, a year or two between each one. And it gives me an opportunity to work on what didn't work and the work that I need to do on myself in order to move forward. But it's this idea that if you do the same with money, you will notice that I think what I will notice as I start to do it more and more and more is the increases in money, the increases in opportunities, increases in ways that I can increase my passions. And there's a level of intuition in each one. There's a level of intuition there as well. And what I notice is that the more that I'm able to connect to myself, the more myself talks to me. If that makes sense.
And this is probably one of the 2 or 3 big pieces that I really teach around money. Is that first piece we can remove self-worth and what you bring to the table and value. And the other piece that I talk about frequently is trusting your inner guidance or your intuition or your gut. And when you look at even interviews from some of the most successful, the wealthiest people, they often talk about there's a level of following their intuition. There's this level of doing something that no one else was doing because it seems insane or it seemed illogical. But to them, it just felt, it was like, I see the potential in this, or it just feels right. I feel pulled to do this. And it's easy for us to look at people who've already made it and be like, well, of course it worked for them because we can see the evidence. But they didn't know what was going to work for them when everyone else is like, that's crazy. And so there's absolutely this level of trusting your inner guidance, your intuition. And I also like to remind people that even though money is this external thing, and you could want $1 million and you could see a bunch of other people who have $1 million and then think, I need to do exactly what they did to get there. Parts of what they did to get to the $1 million may work for you, but doing exactly what they did, the way they did it, will probably not work for you because you are your own unique person who has your own unique skills, gifts, beliefs, abilities, but also your own limitations, your own wounds that might get in your way, your own blind spots. And so what works for one person, you can take some wisdom from that, but there has to be a willingness to blaze your own trail, and you won't know what that looks like until you come there. So there has to be a level of being willing to trust yourself, not just to trust yourself with, here's what feels right, here's the next thing to do, but also a level of trusting yourself to be able to handle whatever happens, because there'll be so many twists and turns, so many things that quote unquote fail that you have to get back up from, or you have to learn from. And that's, I think, for everything in life, like you're talking about with a relationship. When a relationship ends, you don't necessarily want it to end unless you didn't go into it hoping one day I hope this ends, right? It's like most of the time you go into a relationship hoping this will last. And so when a relationship does end, you get to, like you said, if you're willing to do that at work and have that inner strength, you get to look at think, what worked, what can I control within myself to move forward and create a better relationship in the future. And that's a lot of intuition. There's no one right way to do that. And there's no one right way to make money. But because money is so external to us and so objective in a way, it's like you either have this amount or you don't. You can count it. It's tangible. Because of that, I think so often people forget that more kind of human aspect that comes along with it. And that your intuition and your self-worth is required to get to that money.
Let's go back to the very beginning and just what's your definition of money mindset?
So I'd say that money mindset is, you could say it's the relationship you have with money. I think on a deeper level, it's a mirror for the relationship we have with ourselves.
Yeah. So that's going exactly back to self-worth and self-belief. Okay. With regards to self-worth and self-belief, what are the key things people can start to do to increase their self-worth?
So increasing your self-worth is really a matter of looking at what comes really easily to you and what are you really good at, whether that's something naturally or something you become skilled at. And what's the value of that? Not necessarily a monetary value, but what is the impact that has on others? Because we have money flows through people. So when you can bring value to other people, they'll often compensate you. Your money flows in different ways through that. And so why this is so powerful is that we all have different things really to it. Like, for example, my husband used to be a mechanical engineer. Math, the easiest thing in the world to him to this day. Just the mental math is so simple for him. I struggle so much with mental math. I cannot. I need a piece of paper. I need to count on my fingers. That is not there for me. But I'm very skilled with speaking. I'm very skilled with. I was a linguist in university, so languages, learning different languages, it's like second nature. It's so easy for me, but it's not for him, right? Not as much. And so it's very easy for us to look at the things that come easily to us and dismiss them because they come easily to us. We think this isn't that valuable. Everyone can do this. No, they can't. Even soft skills like being able to be a good listener, or the ability to ask good questions, or the ability to see the potential in someone. It's like those are things that aren't necessarily quantified or even taught, but they can make all the difference in your earning capability. But in order to leverage any of it, you have to be so rooted in the knowing of what the value you carry is in these gifts. You have to understand what that value is, because if you don't understand it, you will downplay it. You won't share it fully. You won't leverage it. You won't find ways that it can be exploited for more money. It's like, in order to use the tool that you're disposable, you need to know what the tools are and how they best work. And so that's what we see self-worth is. When you know what you bring to the table, when you know all your gifts, and you'll find new ones the more you do this work. You're like, I'm actually really good at this, or I increased this skill a lot. I've become really good at this. But when you start to do this, you can create so much innovation and so many things that other people aren't doing. You can become one of the best in your field. You can set yourself apart from other people who want the same job as you. Like it's night and day with all the doors that open when you're embodied in the self-worth of what the gifts are that you carry.
This you're saying about what comes easy to you. I think sometimes we get caught up in society, and as you said, you go to school, you come out of school, you go to university, you get married, you have kids, and you have a job. But quite often we get caught up in that cycle. But beyond that cycle are our passions, things we enjoy. And when we do these things we can enjoy, such as whatever it is, whether it's art, whether it's dance, whether it's money mindset, whatever it is, I think you start to, as you said, find things you enjoy, and it just leads to more and more self-worth, more and more confidence, and that builds and builds and builds, and eventually you start finding more and more. The last 4 years, I've started doing ecstatic dance. And I remember, so I just come out of a relationship in November. By New Year's Eve, I was looking for somewhere I can go without drinking and where I can actually go and have a bit of fun. And I went by myself to this ecstatic dance. And I remember, even though the first couple of times I was nervous and I felt a little bit judged, I still went, and I just wouldn't. As soon as I did it once, that was it. I did it fortnightly. I've been doing it fortnightly for the last 4 years, and it's that being able to move, that freedom, and that's what dance brings to me. It's become a passion. Now I don't know how it'll fit with regards to a money mindset, but it's not necessarily even about making money. I think it's that enjoyment, it's that fun, that way of expressing yourself, building self-worth, building confidence. And through that, actually, I've started to be able to start to channel different things. So I'm started channeling dragon energy and things like that. And maybe that's where it's leading.
It could be. This is the thing about where it ties into following your intuition and your inner guidance, or what feels aligned to you. The things that sometimes it's the things that are exciting, or the things that just feel correct, or the passions. But I believe everything is connected. Like everything is connected. And so for you, it couldn't be that, yes, doing the ecstatic dance could absolutely lead to a direct financial avenue for you. It could be through, maybe you end up teaching it. Maybe you end up integrating into something else. Maybe you channel, like you said, dragon energy, and then teach that or use that. But it comes through the dance. So it could be a direct way that might come to you. But also, as you mentioned, it also doesn't have to directly make money in order to impact your financial flow, because it can, like you said, it gives you confidence. That confidence carries over when you have a conversation with them when you're pitching your services or your offer or yourself for an interview. It's like that comes through. That changes the way you present yourself, because also, if this doesn't work out, well, guess what? I'll go blow off steam. I'll dance and I'll move through it, and then I'll get back up, and the next day I'll try something else. And so it gives you that courage, it gives you strength, it gives you confidence, and that can open up ways for money to you. It can also be, if you just love it so much and you're doing it and you feel that passion, maybe one time you're doing it with other people or in a group or being interviewed about it, and then that person or someone in that group has a job opportunity for you or has the perfect connection that opens doors for you in your business. So everything's connected, and there's this level of not needing to know exactly how the money's going to come through that I think also is not at all adopted or talked about in our society. There's this desire for us all to know exactly how the money is going to happen, to have the plan, whether it's go to school, get a good job, then you'll be okay. Or is it, like, okay, in my business, I'm going to do this and launch this and send this many emails, and I'm going to invest this amount, and then I'll know that'll be the thing that it works. And there's some level of security in having a strategy or a path or a map to follow. But often what I've seen with myself, with my huge quantum leaps in money, with my huge money manifestations, my success in business, and from working with thousands of people in my business and the different successes I've seen, they almost never come the way we think they're going to come. They almost never come the exact way, right? Sometimes it's close to how we envision it. Sometimes it's close, but it's usually something that we just followed or some connection we made because we decided to go to that dance class, or, that's usually where it comes from. And so it's all, I like to remind myself whenever something feels truly aligned, it doesn't always mean it's like the easy thing or the easy way out or the instant gratification, but what truly feels correct to me when I can really tune into my inner guidance and be like, what's really the right thing for me here? It usually leads me to money in a really surprising, amazing way. And so having this kind of openness about us to be willing to like, let me see what the universe, what it's going to bring me, as long as I'm willing to show up in my self-worth and trusting myself. Let me see what I'm led to.
How do you connect to your intuition? What ways do you use to connect to it?
So where a while back before I shifted into what I do now, the last iteration of my business, I was working with the modality called human design. I don't know if you're familiar with human design, but I like to tell people it's like astrology on steroids. It's an amalgamation of a bunch of different modalities, but I studied it for a while and I then started offering readings after I went to a reader training and started using it with some clients at the time when this was early days in my business and I was working with people to find what their passion was and, like things like that and live their best life, like more general life coaching. And then I started using human design. And as I started using human design with people, it unlocked something in me and my money in my business started taking off. And I was seeing these huge shifts going from 2K months to 20K months, like these huge jumps in business and in money. And I realized it's because I was applying my different gifts, which you can shine a light on that with the human design chart. But most importantly, I was trusting my intuition. And so in human design, it's called your authority. But it was a tool that it gave me permission to tell me it was okay to trust my intuition and my inner guidance. And so I started playing with it. And for me in human design, I'm a splenic authority. So it's very much intuition of this is correct or this is incorrect. This feels safe or this feels unsafe. Like that is the kind of question. It's just this in the moment kind of voice. And for me, it was a lot of getting used to making time regularly throughout the day to just check in with my voice. And I would test it on little things. And I would just get quiet, like every hour or two throughout the day, I'd get quiet and just ask what feels good to do now. And sometimes it'd be like, go take it or go write that email. Or sometimes it'd go to the park. I would go park. I was like, all right, so if I could just follow with little things, and I started building up evidence like, oh, I went to the park and I found a $20 bill on the ground. Okay. Or, oh, I went to the park and there was someone I connected with it now. And then they're following me on Instagram. And now maybe we'll have a connection or, it's just like, there are these little things that I started finding more and more evidence. So I would just test it with little things. There's like, let's just see what happens if I follow this here. And I'd also look at when I ignored it, when I ignored the inner guidance, what happened? Oftentimes there was some issue or, if it felt better to take some time off from work. And I was like, I should get this done. It's too lazy. If I just take the day off, I can do this in my business. And I'd do it. And then I'd write a bunch of emails and then my internet would crash and I'd lose all the progress. It was like, you should have just taken the day off, right? Like there were things like that just kept showing me that evidence that it was safe to trust my inner guidance. And so this is what I will often guide people to do is first of all, understand what your intuition or inner guidance sounds or feels like to you in your body. And so for some people, it's a gut level. It's like, like your gut's all excited, your sacral center just lit up. For some people, this kind of like the more you talk things out, you kind of get to some clarity, or the more you kind of look at patterns, you go, oh, okay, this is what I think I want to do next. You might be like me, where it's just this inner knowing of just like, this is the right step. I can't explain it. It just is. And so it sounds and feels different for everyone, and everyone has different ways to get in touch with it, but just creating a little space throughout the day to just check in with yourself and see what feels right to you. And then playing with that and testing it and building evidence to yourself that it's safe to trust that.
Yeah, I with regards to intuition, I'm very intuitive. I can just a minute ago, as I say in James, just relax. Just a little inner voice inside me just saying, relax, chill, you're fine, you're good. But I remember there's times when I have gone against my intuition and all hell breaks loose. But then there's times like this house, I remember coming into this house, I knew it was exactly the right one. And basically everybody was saying, chill, James, chill, you're fine. And I trusted that I'd get it. It took me 9 months and it fell through twice, but I eventually got it. That's because I trusted my intuition and knew it was the right one. And I also know that you're like me, you're a projector, aren't you? Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask, and I thought it's a perfect opportunity, with a projector, it's either bitterness or success. How do you, because I remember listening to you on the community and you're mentioning about some of them are quite easy to embody, so some of the feelings. How do you embody success?
This is a fantastic question. And it's funny. I think the next challenge we're going to do in the community and the Wealth Live is going to be on exactly this. It's going to be a human design challenge of working with your signature theme and your not signature theme to get in alignment with the manifest more wealth. So perfect. But for me, with as the projector, so all the energy types in human design have different signature themes and not self themes. So the signature themes are the like kind of like green light that says you're in alignment. When you're feeling this, when you're experiencing this sensation, you're in alignment, you're on the right path. It's just the confirmation. We also all have our own not self themes, which is the thing that you feel when you're out of alignment and you're off of where you want to go. So for projectors like you and I, our signature theme is success and our not self theme is bitterness. I also like to use the word annoyance. That's the one I resonate more with for a projector. But other energy types, all the other 4 energy types, they have, things like, oh, you'll feel satisfied when you're aligned, or you'll feel frustrated when you're not. You'll feel peace and calm, like these things that it's very easy to feel. But like you said, success is the only one that it's not an emotion. It's not a feeling, right? And what I have found, and this has been the most powerful thing, has been as a projector, is that can I see everything that I do through the lens of success? And if the annoyance or the bitterness is coming in, I need to do something to change what I'm doing or the way I'm looking at it to see it as a success and get back with that. So for me, it's let me do things that make me feel successful. Let me see everything that I do in my life as an opportunity to see myself as successful and to feel successful. So for me, this can even look like, I had this example just a couple weeks ago. It was the middle of the day on like a Tuesday, and I just decided I wanted to bake some bread, to make fresh bread at home. I decided I wanted to go make a loaf of bread. So I went downstairs and I got my sandwich strap. I was making bread and listening to music and relaxing. It was beautiful and sunny out. I was looking out at my garden, and my dogs were hanging out with me in the kitchen, and my daughter was all playing with my husband. And I was like, oh, this is nice. And I realized it was like Tuesday at 11 in the morning, and I can just be here making bread because I felt like it. And it was this simple thing, but I was like, I am so successful that I have this time freedom, that in the middle of the day, I can just make bread if I want to on a whim. Whereas, 7 years ago, I was in a day job. I couldn't have done that if I wanted. So I said, I want to make some bread. It's like, well, it's not this job. And it's like, for me, having time freedom has been one of the big goals and big markers of success for me. And so it was just like, all I was doing was making bread. It wasn't anything fancy. I wasn't spending money. I wasn't flying first class. I wasn't doing anything flashy. I was just making some bread in my pajamas in the late morning. And that, to me, I felt so successful in that moment. This feels so successful to make this loaf of bread. And it sounds ridiculous, but I was in this energy of success. And then within hours, I think because I posted on Instagram, I didn't even do that, but I was just, posting some tips or sharing a story. And within hours, I had someone reaching out about my highest mentorship. And it's like, because I was in that energy, I see myself as successful. So then I'm able to more easily show up and share my wisdom and put out my point of view as a projector. And then people can invite me in to share them, but they can see me. Well, because we're projectors, we thrive where we need that invitation to share our wisdom. And the only way people issue us that invitation is when we project out a sense of success, a sense of, I know what I'm about, a sense of confidence, a sense of, let me show you what I see. And so whenever you can find that through whatever you're doing, and then from that mindset and that energy, go interview for the job, go create the offer, go put up the Instagram post, whatever. That's where all the success gets to come from, being mirrored back to you. But it's about finding success and looking at everything through the lens of success. And so even this morning, I slept in a little bit because my daughter, she's 4, she woke up in the middle of the night and it kept me up for a bit. And so my sleep was thrown off a little bit, but I woke up and I felt so successful, even though I woke up late for the day, because I was like, I have the ability to do that. I've created the ability for myself to sleep in when I need to on a weekday. And so at any little thing, checking off to-do lists for me makes me feel successful. I love checking off to-do lists, feeling productive. I feel so successful. So even if I didn't do any work in my business one day, but I cleaned the house and I organized this and I took care of that task, I feel so successful. And then if I decide to go write an email, usually that email makes some sales because I'm in that energy of feeling successful. So to come back to answering your question, it's using your signature theme to guide you to look at life through that lens and to see yourself through that lens. And when you can do that, then you have less and less of your not self theme. When the not self theme does it's making me feel not successful, where am I forgetting how successful I am? Levying it that. And so that's how I embody that.
Yeah, that's powerful. I'm going to be taking that home with me. Definitely. Can we just quickly go back? What are some of the most common blocks that you see people who come to you with?
There's so many, and it depends so much on where people are in their journey with money and different things. But most blocks boil down to the two things we talked about, which are self-trust and self-belief, right? Like those are the biggest blocks of it's not safe to trust myself. It's not safe to trust my intuition. It's not safe to do what I feel called to do. It's not safe to follow my inner guidance, right? Like all of that, or I can't handle what if the money comes, but then I can't handle all the responsibility that comes with it. What if I show up and the universe doesn't bring me the money? Like all the trust pieces, right? So the trust is like usually things boil down to that, or they boil down to I'm not enough. Nobody's gonna want this. Who's gonna pay for that? Who's gonna hire me to do that? Who's gonna pay me that much? What if I'm not good at it? What if I fail? What if people hate it? And there's this level of I don't believe I'm good enough in some way. I don't have enough value that I carry for this. And so usually it boils down to something that falls in one of those two things.
One of the things that you hear a lot is the manifestation. And over the last so many years, there's been different things happening. So manifestation's all about visualizing and it will appear. And then there's the idea that visualization, you combine it with a bit of aligned action. With regards to manifestation, how can people start to shift into it so it starts to work with them rather than against them?
I think that the big thing that it comes down to in my mind is it's not about trying to make manifestation work for you. It's that you are the creator of your reality. You're the creator of it. And especially when it comes to money, I like to say it often is a matter of, can you tune deeper into your inner power and then translate that into outer abundance? And so when it comes to manifestation, for me, everything is a tool, right? Everything is a tool. So again, there's no one right way to get to $1 million, because there's so many ways to get there. There's no one right way to manifest. There's so many ways you can manifest. And again, based on what we've talked about here, depending on what comes easily to you, how you learn. Some people are visual learners. Some people are auditory learners. Some people are tactile, kinetic learners. Like everyone learns differently. Everyone feels things differently. Everyone, as we talk about with human design, has different feelings that they'll associate with more abundance or success, and that aligns them with it. And so I think looking at it and just saying there's not one right way to manifest, that using any modality and any tool to help you connect deeper to your own inner power, right? Deeper to your intuition, deeper to the things that, that belief in yourself, deeper into your own, healing and your own strength, deeper into the gifts you carry, the value you bring to the table, and then expressing that outward, right? And so if visualization helps you feel really powerful, like you envision yourself having more money or success, And that visualization helps you just feel empowered. It helps you connect with your gifts a little bit more, helps you believe that you can do it, then visualize away. But if for some people it's just affirmations, just robotically affirming, it helps you shift something within you, and it's like, then that's great. But all it is can you change your thoughts and your energy to align with what you desire? And then from that place, take the action, right? So I look at it like manifestation. Everything is a tool to help me upgrade my thoughts and my energy, which will then upgrade my actions, right?
So basically, it's shifting your frequency from whatever it is to what you want.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've attempted to do quite a few of the 21 days. There's been a few days which I missed, but what I've come to really enjoy them. And what I've noticed, especially in the ones like receiving and giving, and also obviously the one at the moment is quantum jumping. But let's just quickly go into giving and receiving, because I feel like our society, whether it's in the UK or in the US or in Europe, Australia, there's this idea that you have to make ends meet, you have to work. And we're almost shifting into our masculine energy. And obviously, when we talk about the giving and receiving on your community, you talk about shifting back from your feminine into your masculine. How does that work?
Yeah, so that's the receiving mode challenge in the Wealth Vibe, which is, I think, one of our most popular challenges that we run in there. Every month we do a different 21-day challenge, and the idea, like I was just saying, is to try on different modalities, try on different techniques to help see what helps you build the habits and upgrade yourself into what you desire to manifest. And so with the receiving mode, this was, I think, some of my biggest healing that I did around money that helped me so much, and that I feel the whole world can benefit from. As you said, our society, they're so embroiled in the belief of it has to be work, work, work. And furthermore, relaxation is something you earn when you've done enough, when you made enough money, when you've hit the goal, then you can relax. Then you can take the vacation. Then you can retire. Then you can, it's like we have to work, work, work until we get to the money we desire, and then we can relax. But what that often leads to is burnout. And it leads to things like my dad, where he worked his whole life. He worked so hard. Sometimes he'd take on an extra job. Like he worked so hard all the time and still never made it the financial abundance he desired. And I think that's where, for me, it was the easiest to see through that illusion and that kind of lie of that paradigm of you have to work hard to make money. Like, I saw my parents work hard to make money, and they were constantly experiencing difficulties and stress around money, constantly. And they were still hardworking, and they were intelligent, and they had good jobs. And it was like, wow. And it's so much that it was their relationship with themselves, their relationship with money, and the power they gave away to it. And I think for me, as I started doing this work, I was like, oh, it's not, because I found that myself. I was an overworker. I was a high overachiever, perfectionist. You need to do more with the money. I hear it because I haven't done enough, or I haven't done it right, or I need to do this. So I started realizing that can't work like that, because if it worked like that, everyone would be rich. If all it took was just work really hard until the money shows up, and then the money will show up, then everyone would be rich, because you just have to apply force and energy, and that's it. But so much of the world is working so hard and struggling with so more. And so if that, for me, that was just where the cracks were shown. I was like, that doesn't seem true, because so many people do that. I've seen it firsthand, and it doesn't work most of the time. So when I started questioning this, I started really playing with, what if, this is especially when I started listening to my intuition more through my human design. And I started looking at what happens if I relax and I feel like, especially because I was running my own business and I had the luxury of doing that. Like, what would happen if I just relaxed today? Because I don't feel inspired to write an email. If I were going to do it, it's just because I have to make some money. What if instead I just relaxed? And what I found was, most of the time when I relaxed, either one of like three things would happen. Either I would have some brilliant idea while I was relaxing, an email to send or a program to create or something to do that then resulted in money. The second thing that would often happen was I would recharge and I would be so inspired and so motivated like a few hours later or the next day, and then do so much more work than I wouldn't have if I tried to sit there and force myself to work. And I was way more productive in like 4 hours later than I would have been in the whole 8 hours of just stressing myself out. And I felt rejuvenated. Or the third thing was sometimes I just have people seemingly miraculously reaching out to me and wanting to pay or buying things or asking for mentorship and packages. And so I'm kind of just saying relaxation is productive and profitable. And that's something I say quite a bit because we've been told if you relax, you're not going to make money. You're being lazy. The money's not going to come in. You have to be working hard. And the truth is, when we do relax, we recharge, we actually change what our brain is doing. So there's space for new ideas to come in and just land, and inspiration to land. And then also on an energetic level, when you think about the feminine and masculine energies, it's like, again, what I said earlier, money flows through people. So if you want people to pay you or hire you, you have to then be able to receive that money. So if you're constantly, like I just think about in business, if I'm constantly always emailing my audience, you're always posting videos constantly, people are trying to keep up with consuming. They're receiving what I'm putting out. They don't have any space to then give. And then I'm not leaning back and receiving, so to say. So it's like there's this kind of energetic balance to it. So there's so many different facets you can come at it from, but the more that I've explored this, the more I've played with it and experimented with it and seen results, but also just the more I've logicked my way through it, I'm like, it makes so much sense to incorporate more relaxation, not because I've earned it, but because it's part of the equation, right? Because often the equation is hard work equals money equals relaxation.
Yeah.
Or you can even think hard work plus money equals relaxation. But we have to flip the money and relaxation part. It's hard work plus relaxation equals money.
I've seen this firsthand because obviously with having farmers as parents, there's almost this grafting mentality within inside me. But also I know, obviously recently I've been known a projector that I've got a limited amount of energy. So if I graft for 8 hours, by lunchtime, I'm needing a kip, asleep. And then by the evening, I'm exhausted. And so I'm having to find ways in which I can start to relax a little bit more. What's your idea of relaxation? Because does relaxation mean watching TV? Or does relaxation mean something like giving yourself space for thoughts and things to occur?
It can mean all of that or completely different things based on who you're speaking to and just what they need in the moment. So sometimes for me, relaxing looks like binging some TV shows and eating snacks with my husband. Like sometimes that's what it looks like. And other times it looks like a bubble bath, or it looks like getting a massage, or it looks like spending time sitting outside in my garden, or going for a hike in nature. So sometimes it's meditation, sometimes it's a nap, right? So it really depends. This is where, again, listening to your inner sense, what feels aligned to me, what feels correct, feels right. But I will say that the thing I always encourage people to aim for with the relaxation and for getting into what I call receiving mode, right? Where you can be receptive to ideas and energy and the opportunity that will bring money to you. It's always looking for something that's going to allow you to relax physically and mentally, because it's often that people are relaxing physically. So they're watching TV or they're in the bubble bath, but then their minds are going a million miles an hour. And I say this from firsthand experience as someone who, a chronic overthinker, has some undiagnosed anxiety, right? Like, what I have found is that it's incredibly easy for us to relax in a performative way, but not relax mentally. And I think my husband called this out in me years ago. I was like, I'm always so exhausted I took the day off. Why am I still so tired? He's like, yeah, but the whole time you were thinking about your business and wondering why people aren't buying and what you need to do. And I remember taking a bubble bath once to relax early on in my business. And partway through that, I just realized I was creating new programs in my head and outlining emails in my head and going, okay, after this, I'm going to get out and then I'm going to cook dinner and then I'm going to write an email and then I'm going to do, and it was like I was doing a mental chore list instead of actually relaxing. And so for some people, it's the physical aspect they struggle with, but most of us, it's the mental aspect. It's the mental, like slowing our mind down. And so if you can do something that actually allows you to slow your mind down and to relax mentally and physically, that's the sweet spot. And you don't have to be relaxing all day, every day. You can relax for 15 minutes a day and get the benefits of this, right? Like you can relax for an hour in the evening. And if you fully relax mentally and physically, then you can reap all these rewards, right? And everyone will have their different balance of relaxation versus action is required. But it's like, how much can you just allow the physical and mental relaxation? So TV, sometimes for me, if I can fully lose myself in a TV show and I'm just enjoying it and I'm doing it guilt-free, because I'm not like, oh, I should be working and I'm just fully in the moment and receiving it and just enjoying the moment, that's relaxing. Other times, if I'm watching TV because I want to numb out because I don't want to think about that difficult thing I have to do, it's not as relaxing. It's not as nourishing, right? So it's really just being honest with yourself and being willing to look at, is this actually me relaxing, or am I doing this and mentally working, or am I doing this and numbing out, or am I doing this and feeling guilty for it? And it's that ability to be fully relaxed and receive. I say it's like receiving the present moment. When you can fully receive the present moment, you know you're relaxing, you're in receiving mode.
That's so important, is the mental side, because I know from my own experience how I try and sit in silence and my mind's just racing. But I've come with regards to that, I've come to allow myself to allow these thoughts to come in and allow them to go out as they need. Because if I try to push them away, it's like emotions. You try to push your emotions away, they come back even harder. So I feel like the same with my own thoughts. Just allowing them to be there and then they'll eventually disappear. Or I've seen somewhere a balloon and you see them drifting off into the abyss. That's another one. Can we quickly I want to cover as well quantum jumping. What's quantum jumping and how can people get into quantum? How can they really step into it?
So I believe that quantum jumping is when you consciously, well, I mean, I won't even say consciously, because I believe we're kind of jumping from timelines all the time. But I believe there's infinite timelines. I mean, there's infinite possibilities. There's infinite realities. There's infinite outcomes for what can come next for you in your life. And the choices you make or don't make dictate what timeline, what outcome you have. And so when there's anything could happen, like 5 years from now, I could be anywhere. I could be doing anything. And when I choose this moment can inform that. And when I choose the next moment can inform that and set me on a different track. And so I believe that we're constantly kind of shifting between timelines or possibilities or possible outcomes all the time, just based on what we choose to do or not do. So me sitting here and having this discussion with you is shifting a timeline. And the way I feel about it, the way I'm thinking about it, the way I go into it, my perspective around it, the stories I tell around it, that can shift timelines because it'll impact what I say or what I do next or the stories I tell myself. So you can get really granular with it, but ultimately it comes down to we're often kind of shifting between different outcomes, but we kind of have like a groove that we're in. We're like, there's a few kind of timelines that you can kind of bounce between, right? Like where it's like and this is why so many people I feel get stuck around money is we have the same thoughts, which create the same energy, which create the same actions in ourselves, the same patterns over and over, which create similar results in our lives. And so when we want to have what people call a quantum leap, so a really big shift in reality, a really big shift in our external realities, this means we have to kind of almost radically change our thoughts, our energy, and our actions. And when I say radically, it doesn't have to be like you do a complete 180 and you're a different person, but it means something that is so outside of the norm for you in your normal thinking and energy and actions. And so this can be as simple as, for some people, it's affirming. I make $10,000 a month. I make, and just affirming that over and over when you only make $2,000 a month, and not needing to know how to get there, but just programming your mind with that. And then your mind starts to see evidence or opportunities because you start thinking and feeling like maybe someone who's a little wealthier. And then because you have that confidence, then you start acting differently, right? Sometimes it's visualizing yourself shifting into a timeline where you make that and that amount of money and seeing that and feeling that. Sometimes it's scripting, right? Like you said, any of the tools that help you shift. But it's when you consciously choose the shift and then you keep making decisions that are aligned with that reality. Because this is the thing is often this is why I feel people struggle with manifestation so much. Because they do the work once, they feel the shift. Like you said, you do that really good meditation where you feel so good, you feel like anything's possible, and then you check your phone and you're like, my bank account's the same. Oh, it's like, you're like, where's the money? And it's in that moment that then you check and you have the disappointment and the thoughts and the stories that come along with it of like, not here yet, it's never going to come, it doesn't work. You shift back to the old time. So you can we're fluidly shifting all the time. And so if you want to quantum jump, it's about really kind of doing almost an intensive overhaul of your thoughts and your energy to the point where you can hold a different mindset and a different energy and therefore take certain different actions that are going to lead to different results in your life. So that's how I view quantum leaping.
Because obviously changing the thoughts and the patterns is quite a hard thing. Well, it's a very hard thing for most people. So what is it that we exactly need to do in order to start to shift that?
So in order to start to shift, what I like to look at with people is look at like where you are right now and the thoughts you're having right now. I always say it's thoughts first because our thoughts create our energy, which then bears our action. So you look at where are you right now? Where are you objectively, financially, career-wise, success-wise? And what thoughts do you have just day to day and generally about money or about what you're doing? So where are you right now? And where do you want to be? Like what money do you want to have? What success do you want to have? And what thoughts do you think you'd be having at that point? And so you can see the gap, right? You'd be like, so for example, when I was making almost no money in my day job and struggling against me, it was, I have no money, I'm broke, I can't do anything I want, this is so unfair, I'll never make enough, I'll never have this, it's like all these disempowering things. But when I started doing this mindset work, I was like, okay, well, the version of me who has the things she wants and the financial freedom would be saying, I have so much freedom. I'm so free. I can do anything I want when I want. I can afford this. I have a dream home. I'm so lucky. I'm so happy. I'm so wealthy. And then when we start to see these different thoughts, I like to close the gap by looking at like, what are the more things you can control, right? So for example, in that example I gave, I'm saying, I can't do this. I'm always going to struggle. I'm so unhappy. I'm frustrated. I'm mad. It's unfair. It was like, can I start instead shifting to find ways to start having the thoughts that I believe I'll be having when I'm making 10K, 20K months, whatever it was. And so instead of going, for some people saying, I make $10,000 a month, I make $10,000 a month, sometimes that can shift things. And for me, I got to a point where I can just say things like that because I know how this works and I let that shift things for me. But at the beginning of my mindset journey, I focused more on, okay, the version of me who's making all that money, she'd feel free. She'd feel happy. She'd feel powerful. So then I focused on feeling those things and finding things, to feel those ways where I was. So that then I could start to say those things more to myself and have them be true. And so I would, like, for example, I loved writing. I've always loved writing. And when I was working in my day job and for that I was nannying, and when I do those things and I wanted to start to feel free and I wanted to start to feel powerful and creative and these ways I thought I'd feel when I was making more money, I would write during my lunch break, or I'd write on the weekends, or I'd write, like when I was at home instead of going out and spending money drinking, and things like going out to bars with friends, I started staying home and writing more. And I'm like, whoa, I chose this. I chose to do this. I have the freedom to choose this. Even if I had to go to work the next day, I had the freedom to choose to not go out and to actually do the thing that made me feel creative and made me feel so happy and made me feel successful. And So I started cultivating that in whatever ways I could, exactly where I was. And then as I started doing that, things started shifting already, because then it was like, I'm feeling confident, I'm empowered. Then it was like, why not apply for that job? And why not apply for this? And it without me realizing at the very beginning of my journey, I was building self-worth and I was building self-trust and confidence. And so then it started to snowball from there, right? But it's really about, where can you identify where you are now, where you want to be, and what are the thoughts that you do have control over that you can make true for yourself. And again, it's what I said earlier, all that it's bringing you back to your power, because you have the power to choose at any moment to see yourself as a victim, as mad, as stuck, or you can see the freedom you have where you have it. You can see the opportunities for fulfillment where you have it, and you can choose it. And so when you remind yourself of that power and you connect back to that, it's like, that's how we change our thoughts. That's how we change our thoughts. And like I said, you do that, changes your energy, actions you start taking change, the way you take them change, and then everything snowballs from there.
The one key thing I think you said there was choose. Everything's a choice. And I feel like sometimes I feel, and I've been in that point as myself, where I feel things are happening and I haven't got a choice. But it almost gives our power away. And it's understanding that we do have the power to choose how we respond and how we react. And I think that's the key to changing our mindset, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in money, whether it's, and everything. And it's that choice. We get to choose. And sometimes we can get caught up in our old patterns, but then we get to choose how we respond in those patterns. Just before we finish, is there any other daily practices or different modalities or different 21-day challenges you could recommend that could really help people to really step into their money mindset?
There's so many, and that's why I have the wealth side, because certain things will land for certain people. But if I had to sum up what I feel I would just give everyone is, can you find each day a way to do two things, right? Do two things each day. Can you follow your inner guidance, your intuition, even if it's not related to money, but just once a day, whether it's just like my intuition says, instead of driving, take walk or take the bus, or like do that thing and just see how it goes. So playing with your intuition, trusting it, building evidence that it's safe to trust it, and then you can use on bigger and bigger things. And then the other piece would be, at least once a day, pick out one thing about yourself that you truly value, like a skill you have or something that comes easily to you. And really not just say, yeah, I'm a good listener, and then move on, but really sit with that and sit into it and go, I am a good listener. And when I am a good listener, when I listen to people, they feel validated. And when someone feels validated, they feel empowered. And people open up to me. And when people open up, we can have so much deeper conversations. So of course, let's say you're in customer service. My customer service, I'm one of the most valuable employees in the customer service industry, because I listen to people. I make them feel heard. I make them feel validated. Of course, that makes sense. I'm going to have better success rates with handling tickets than most people do. So of course the company would want to pay me way more than they typically pay for customer service, because I am so naturally good at this. And it's like, when you can be embodied in that, showing up at job interviews, landing jobs, selling in your business, whatever it is, it's like so easy to do because you understand the value of what you bring to the table. So that would be, I'd say, if you can do this every day, I would think tap into your self-worth first thing in the morning. I sometimes like to do it before I get out of bed. I'll think of one or two things that I'm like, this comes so easily to me, or I've mastered this skill, or I've grown to be so good at this. And this is why this is so powerful for people and how it impacts people, how it changes the world. It's like really zooming out with it. And then follow your intuition at least once and kind of keep like an evidence log of how did that go when you followed your inner guidance or when you didn't, so that you can start testing it. And I think naturally those things start to shift your beliefs, what is possible for you.
We're finding out I'm a projector in human design. I obviously self-recognition is so important. So I've created a self-recognition book. So in the morning, I'll write about what I recognize in myself as a way to, I suppose that's that self-worth idea. And in a way, I don't go and look for recognition of other people. I've got it myself. How can we finish up? Can you tell people how can they get in contact and what is it that you do?
So I call myself a money mindset expert and a business and success mentor. That's a fancy way of saying I do a lot of different things, but you can find me over on YouTube at Taylor Eaton. Over there, I share a lot of videos. I do tarot readings, oracle readings to help people activate more wealth in their lives. So Oracle Deck author. I also have the Wealth Led community. You can find all my offerings at tayloreaton.com. But that's the community we talked about here a lot that you're a part of, where it's low cost month-to-month community, but you can come in and we do different 21-day challenges all around different modalities to manifest wealth. We have a book club where we read money and spirituality books in there. We also have hundreds of members, so lots of community. I do daily mini money readings, tarot decks there. So lots of tools to keep you in the wealth club, to keep you in the mindset and the energy of abundance and anchored into that so that you can move from there and then kind of achieve everything that we've been talking about here today. And then, of course, I have mentorship for people who are in business, who want to create success in alignment with themselves in a way that kind of shifts the money paradigm away from the hard work mentality that we've been fed, right? So lots of different things I do, lots of different ways to work with me, but yeah, over on YouTube and then tayloreaton.com.
Thank you very much, Taylor.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Man, A Quest to Find Meaning. If today's conversation sparked something in you, take a moment to reflect, then take a step. Remember, real growth comes from action, not just insight. If you found value in this episode, share it with a friend, leave a review, or reach out and let me know what resonated. Your feedback helps shape the journey we're on together. For more conversations like this, make sure to subscribe and stay connected. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn for updates, tools, and upcoming guests. Remember, it's not about having the answers, it's about daring to look.